Hey everyone, we're going to continue on with our series throughout Sword and Shield, looking at the investability of each set. And today we're looking at Pokemon Go. Before we get into Pokemon Go and looking at the TCG and how the set's performing, remember this.
They had built. They were unprepared for the game's success. Now it goes without saying that
Jeez, it was crazy. I think nearly every city in the world, that sort of thing was happening. The Pokemon Go craze was insane. I remember it down here in Australia. It was bonkers. People were everywhere, getting up those live maps of seeing where the little trackers of each Pokemon was and waiting for something good to pop up. Me, myself, used to play it a fair bit. Probably put too many hours into it. It was crazy. In case you haven't watched any of the other videos, what we do, we're going to score each Sword and Shield set out of 15 based on its investability. Obviously, today we're looking at Pokemon Go. There's 3 criteria. Each of those criteria is scored out of 5, giving us a total, of course, out of 15. The higher the score, the more investable the set. The first criteria that we look at is the print run and also the supply and demand on the set. Second thing we look at is the hits. So does it have big chase cards and does it have a heap of chase cards, above that $5, $10 mark? And the third thing we look at is the fun factor. So how fun is the set to both look at sealed and rip open in the future? Anyway, let's get into it. Criteria 1. So criteria 1, let's have a look at the supply and demand. As we're going to have a bit of a chat, I'm going to bring up the PSA pop report here, and as you can see, there's been 45,000 graded cards. And one thing that sort of comes to mind for me when it comes to supply demand on these holiday sets, obviously things like, throughout the Sword and Shield era, you've had Champion's Path, you've had Shining Fates, you've had Celebrations, you've had Pokemon Go. They're smaller sets. They don't have north of, mainstream sets now are massive, like north of 200 cards. The holiday sets have more sets than like Jungle and Fossil used to have in them. But anyway, as you can see, as we're scrolling through these these PSA pop reports with graded cards, you can see there's just huge populations. So what inevitably happens with this is, because you've got a small holiday set, and we'll get onto the number of hits in a minute, but you might have, say, 80, 90 cards inside the set with 12 or so hits. What inevitably happens is those hits just get heavily graded, like extremely heavily graded, because you don't have 20 or 30 hits inside the set. You don't have 4 or 5 of those waifu trainers to grade. You don't have 6, 7, 8 alt arts to grade. You don't have 10 rainbow cards to grade. You've got this small sort of compilation to get graded, and what inevitably happens, as you can see looking through this PSA pop report with 45,000 graded cards, is you get like 10,000 graded Radiant Charizards and 5,000 graded Radiant Venusaurs, and all of a sudden the prices of those cards just absolutely plummets. So I suppose there's a bit of a correlation between this PSA pop report and supply demand. And you can also look at obviously the prices of boxes and stuff to get an idea on that as well. I think what you'll find ultimately with a heavy saturation of the graded chase cards in this set is that it's just hurt sort of box prices, which we'll look at the end of this video. But the demand has dropped because, what are you going to pull? A Radiant Charizard, which is worth $7, a Gold Mewtwo, which is worth $30, $25, a alt art Mewtwo, which is worth $30. Like, it's just a bit of a stitch up when it comes to Pokemon Go. It was sort of almost too hyped up that there was too much supply and the demand just couldn't absorb it all. And as a result, like I was saying, we get this oversaturation of PSA graded cards. It really affects box prices, and ultimately I just don't think, I think probably the set was it was printed too heavily from what the demand could soak up. So in terms of a score, for me, I know this is going to sound very, very harsh, but supply demand, it's a 1.5 for me. It's a 1.5 out of 5. It's still sitting around heavily in shops. It's everywhere, and it's marked down to clear. So what does that tell you? It paints a pretty clear picture. So moving on to criteria 2 here, the hits. I suppose we touched on this before, but you've probably only got, and we'll scroll through some of the hits on the on TCG Player here. Please check out the prices. None of them are red hot. What's your most? You've got obviously a heavily Mewtwo back set. There's the Mewtwo V-Star, both in gold and regular. You've got the Mewtwo V Alt Art. You've got the 3 Radiant cards, obviously in the Charizard, the Blastoise, and the Venusaur. I'll tell you, on a positive note, because probably going to sound like I'm throwing a fair bit of shade behind Pokemon Go, but on a positive note, if you look through, and we'll get through to them soon as we're scrolling through the website here, but if you look through to some of the smaller cards, like the cheaper cards, the commons, I actually think the artwork is damn good on the commons in this set. Even things like that Gyarados card, the 3 starters, Pikachu, like Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, there's some nice common artwork in here. It's just a shame that the hits are that so heavily saturated. The pull rates weren't too bad either. So it's just, you got this, and smaller holiday sets just unfortunately tanked the price of the box and the price of the singles inside them, which hurts a little bit. So I guess you could argue that, in comparison to a lot of other Sword and Shield sets, there aren't too many big chase cards inside here. And what's that mean for a score? Well, in my opinion, and again, it's going to sound like I'm almost hitting poor Pokemon Go set between the eyes, but it's probably, when it comes to hits, it's not the worst. And I feel like I'm being generous to it, but it's a 2.5 out of 5 for me. Definitely, 2.5 out of 5. Now, moving on to criteria 3, so we can, of course, get our score out of 15. I thought I'd just bring up some of the sealed product prices on the screen here now. So we're going to have a look at that Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box. Just remember, criteria 3, of course, is the fun factor. And that refers to how nice it is to look at in your sealed collection, and also how fun it's going to be in the future for people to open. Is this a set in 10 years' time that streamers are going to go, righto guys, today I've bought a $600 Pokemon Go Elite Trainer box and we're going to rip it open? Again, I sound like I'm being really harsh on the set, but I can't see that happening. Compare it to, let's say, Celebrations. Compare it to Celebrations. People are going to go, right, I got, the Celebrations, it's 25th anniversary. We're now at the 35th anniversary. We're going to rip open a 25th anniversary box today. Can we pull the OG Charizard? Like, you get what I'm saying? There's more nostalgia in this box compared to this box. Now, the other thing you can see as we're scrolling through some pricing here is they've dipped drastically after launch, but they've remained pretty stagnant for probably the last 9 months. Now, that tells me, I don't think it's going lower. I think if you, and there are some good sealed products here, don't get me wrong. That the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box is a really nice looking box. And I also think, which we brought up before, that Radiant Eevee collection is a damn nice box. And I think you also get a playmat inside that. And I'm a bit of a sucker for playmats. And they're not cheap either. Try pick up a cheap playmat. They're never cheap. So I think there's still a few good sort of fun factor sealed. In terms of a score though, I'm going to have to give, and again, it sounds like I'm being so harsh on it, but the fun factor, I just can't really see people jumping on Pokemon Go and in 10 years' time going, we're going to open some Pokemon Go booster packs, tune in. I just can't see people being all that interested in, where is the fun factor there? In its defense, it is a nice pack, nice Elite Trainer boxes to keep sealed. So it sounds harsh, but for me, it's a 2 out of 5 for Pokemon Go when it comes to the fun factor. So this brings about 2 questions. What's our total score? And also, should we invest in Pokemon Go? So total score, if you do the maths, should be 6, which 6 out of 15, again, sounds really, really harsh. Please let me know your thoughts below in the comments though. 6 out of 15. Do you think I'm being too harsh on Pokemon Go as an investment, or do you think that's somewhat fair? Anyway, part two though, should we invest in it? Well, like I was saying before, I don't think, or I can't see the product going any lower. I don't think a Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box will go any lower. I don't think the regular Elite Trainer box will go any lower. I don't think things like the tins will go any lower, or the Radiant Eevee collection will go any lower. So I think if you buy in now, arguably, there's little to no risk, as in, if you buy, I think you can pick up Elite Trainer boxes now for sort of 60 Australian dollars. So I think if you buy an Elite Trainer box for $60, I can't see it going backwards. Like slowly, supply will trickle. There's going to be people that, because don't get me wrong, it's a nice looking box. There's going to be people in the future that want it as part of their Elite Trainer box collection. There's going to be people that want that Radiant Eevee playmat. Like I can see that maybe moving north a little bit, that premium Radiant Eevee collection. So I know I'm dancing around the question, should you invest in it? And I guess what I'm trying to say is it's somewhat safe at the moment if you park some money into it, because A, it's not a bad display piece, and B, I don't think it's going to go any lower. But the real question is, will it go up? Like that's obviously what investing is all about. Will the Pokemon Go boxes go up? Oh, yes, but it'll take some serious time, I think. I can't really see it moving, and we've seen a little uptick in like the regular Elite Trainer box in the last probably 3 months. Is that trend line going to continue? Possibly. In 5 years' time, what's it going to be worth? Or in 2 years' time, what's it going to be worth? I don't think it's going to be a $60 Australian Elite Trainer box in 2 years, but I don't think it's going to be much more than that. Maybe it's going to be 80. What's it going to be in 5 years' time? I don't know, 150. Like I can't. I think there is much better investments to park your money in. So hence the score 6 out of 15. Anyway, sort of interesting set. I think it's a good set with the timing wrong, but that could have used some extra chase cards. That's sort of my overall summary of the set, and I think it would have been a lot stronger. But please let me know your comments below. What are your thoughts around Pokemon Go? Tune in next time. Thanks everyone for watching. It means a fair bit. So thanks heaps. Cheers, guys.